Let me clarify on the position of the Iranians and the downing of the Apache itself. So this is actually what was stated by Foreign Affairs Minister Abbas Agarachi on June 9th. He said that foreign forces, quote, are at a constant risk due to their own errors and should leave the region because Iran will never be, quote, hospitable to their presence. So a lot of people think that that is a direct reference to the Iranian attack on the Apache helicopter, but stops short of explicitly naming or threatening the US forces. It's the same tactic that they've used throughout quite a lot of the war, but also throughout various engagements in the past, right? It sort of goes back to their plausible deniability approach, albeit they've kind of abandoned that in the past year since the 12-day war and the whole disintegration of the proxy network or severe weakening. So does that convince you otherwise? Or
no, that's what I referred to a second ago by Abbas Araghchi, is that he said that, but that was a kind of an elusive sort of commentary. Definitely was not direct. By any means was it not direct. In the context, you may say, well, maybe that's what it meant. Maybe he was trying to say, hey, listen, if anything does come in there, we're going to do that. But there's been a lot of other aircraft that have gone in and haven't been attacked, other than MQ-9 Reaper drones, because apparently we've lost like 41 of those. So the drones they have continued to take down, because that does reconnaissance. But this is the first known attack on a helicopter. And one would also ask, why was an AH-64 in a time when we're supposed to be in a ceasefire? What was it even doing over there anyway? Were there other aircraft with it? So many questions that I have. And so that comment by Abbas Araghchi, maybe that's what he meant. Maybe it's not. They left it diffuse. It wasn't direct. But I have separately seen, and unfortunately I don't have it handy, where they said, no, we did not shoot it down. So there's conflicting information apparently coming out of the Iranian side. So bottom line is, whatever they say, it didn't happen the way that President Trump said. I will tell you that. There's almost no way. It's almost physically impossible for what was described to have actually happened.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm inclined to believe that. It comes from the foreign minister of the country. The other source you're thinking of is various different, but it's also state media, which, well, I mean, they might want to walk that back. But I think if the foreign minister is basically saying we did it, but we're not going to tell you explicitly, then I don't know. That somewhat convinces me otherwise. But all in all, though, what it means is that we're now back in this situation. I've just seen a report here from Axios saying that Trump has lost his mind. He's gone berserk, stating that he's fed up with the lack of progress. He's tired of being kept waiting, as they put it. But why did Trump think otherwise? Is the guy's just a delulu in your mind, and there's no point trying to sane wash why he might have chosen now to shift policy?
Well, the only thing that makes any sense is that he has come under just withering pressure from pro-Israeli sources, and that means pro-Israeli sources in his inner circle. And we know there's quite a few of those. You see them on American television all the time, especially on Fox News. You see Mike Pompeo, you see Jack Keane, you see Keith Kellogg, you see Rebecca Heinrichs, the Victoria Coates. I mean, a whole slew of folks. Dan Hoffman is another one. They're almost always saying that we need to go back to war. Jack Keane yesterday, or day before yesterday, I think it was, explicitly says, yep, there's no point in talking anymore. We have to go back and finish the job and do all this stuff, even though there is no rational path to finishing the job, or we would never have stopped it in the first place. This nonsense that people keep saying of, oh, well, we got 70% of it done here. We just got a couple more weeks we can go back and then we'll finish the job. That is a lie. Straight out of the depths of hell. There's no truth to it whatsoever. I mean, it's also irrational and illogical. Consider this. Are you telling me that you think the president of the United States, Donald Trump, and the Pentagon are going to say that they're 75% of the way to defeat, and all they got to do is just do that last 2 more weeks, and then they'll be devastated and destroyed, and they wouldn't have, and that they would have stopped and allowed them to recover and stuff? Of course they wouldn't have done that. Nobody would do that, especially not this crew. If they thought that they were that close, they would have hit the gas pedal. They would have gone even harder and dropped even more to completely finish them off. They didn't because they can't. That's the bottom line here. So going back and doing it now is not going to have any more of an impact than it did before, except that now Iran has promised to accelerate their response even outside of the region and beyond, to expand the war horizontally. and they're already, Hezbollah is fighting. They're talking about Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq is possibly. We know the Houthis from their own statement just a few days ago. They're already claiming that they're stopping Israeli shipping in the Red Sea. They could also expand that to the Bab el-Mandab, and then nobody's oil gets out there either. There's a lot of places for the Iranian side to escalate, and they won't do it unless we go back to fighting. So I'm hopeful that President Trump won't do that. If he's motivated by fear, I hope some other voices will get in that other ear, besides the Jack Keanes and the Mike Pompeos, and start telling him economically, this is going to be devastating for you, and we can't recover from this. If the Iranians do what they promised to do, we can't recover from it. No tweet, no Truth Social, nothing is going to solve that problem if we do. And so we have to hope that sways the day.
Yeah, the trigger for Trump strikes on Iran was finally the U.S. helicopter. I'm just reading here from Barak Ravid of Axios, and that Trump had been growing more and more frustrated because the Iranians had not responded in this effective 2 weeks, Danniel, to his latest offer, right? It still hadn't arrived. But that makes me feel like it's just part of the Iranian strategy. Put as much pressure on Trump as possible by just eking out the time frame as long as possible, be as drawn out as possible, because ultimately the Trump administration, or Trump just personally, and his time horizon, the amount of time he has.
Well, see, I look at it slightly different, not completely different.
How do you see it?
But it's not that they're trying to drag it out, the Iranian side, is that they recognize that they have the leverage. And they're saying, look, we'll make a deal today if it includes these things, because those are what we feel like we need to have, and we have the leverage to compel them. If you don't get it, we're just not going to make a deal. We're not going to agree to something that we have the leverage to avoid. And if that takes another month, if that takes another year, 3 years, I think that the Iranian side is ready to pay that price, and they know that we can't pay that price over the same amount of time. Iran can suffer and suffer egregiously, and I think they have calculated that we can't, that they can endure this. It's a gamble, it's a risk. But I think that they rightfully have suggested that we can do that. So it's not that they're dragging it out. It's that they're saying, because they're not changing their terms. If anything, they're adding to them and making them more difficult for us because they think they can. I mean, that's how it's working right now. And normally that's how it always works. The side that has the leverage can make the demands on the other side. But in this case, the side that doesn't have the leverage, just because we've exposed that we don't have the leverage militarily, that's what we've always had as our ace in the hole. But now that ace didn't work, and we can't compel them to do it. Now then they have proven that, so that they have neutralized that card. Now then, what card do we have to play? And it's the economic card, but they've got some big economic cards too that they can play. So they have more leverage and more potential leverage than we do. So I think that they're holding out that all these terms that they say, release of the frozen assets first, release of the sanctions on our energy infrastructure, removal of your blockade, and recognition that we're going to remain in control of the strait. And one of the most difficult and emotional ones is the war against Lebanon has to come in. Hezbollah in Lebanon has to come to an end too. They're saying those 5 things are non-negotiable, and they think they have the leverage to compel them. So they're not dragging it out. They're just having high demands and going to say, who's going to blink?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that they have a sense of general strategic endurance, strategic patience that they think that they can leverage. But certainly, and out of those elements that you've identified, to me, I think that the Lebanese issue is an actual red line for them. The Hormuz and nuclear enrichment files are something that they're willing to negotiate on, albeit very limitedly. But I think the Lebanon and continued actions of the Israeli government are a genuine no-go. We are not going to accept this. And I think, Danniel, what's really interesting or significant is that the Iranians, for the first time in my memory, have struck and taken military action on behalf of the third party. Yeah. Usually it's the other way around, but they did this. And and I think there was a great piece written on this by Trita Parsi, who we have on the show quite a lot. And he said that this is a huge shift in Iran's foreign and military doctrine. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I believe I saw this morning, I've been swamped with shows, so I haven't been able to follow it up too much, but I think I saw that some Iranian officials and official statements have indicated that the Gaza is now added to the list, and the Palestinians in Gaza, not even just in general for Palestinians, but we have to have a ceasefire in Lebanon and a ceasefire in Gaza, because all the people now are going to matter. So I mean, I don't know for sure if that's the case. I think I saw that this morning, but it does show that because they have increasing confidence that they have the leverage and they have these additional cards they can play if they need to. I think they feel like they have the ability to make these threats. And again, I cannot emphasize enough. We played our ace in the hole first. And that was with the military card, thinking we could just blow them out of the water and just destroy them and make them, come begging for terms. And then that didn't happen. They saw that they were able to endure that. They neutralized that ace. And now we don't have any more aces to play. They do. They still have some more aces, like striking the other infrastructure, the other energy infrastructure in the Gulf, which they had largely left untouched. There's a lot of other targets they could go after. So I think that they say, hey, if you want to play a game of chicken on a national or strategic level, we're willing to play it. And I think that they have shown that now then, because of all the damage that we've already caused and the assassination of their senior leader and all these other generals that have been killed and the destruction of their surface fleets, the big ones anyway, that they're like, hey, we've lost so much, but we've withstood it. And we are not going to back down now because we see that what's left, these underground missile bunkers, the production facilities with their drones underneath the surface of these mountains that we can't get at. We've proven we can't get at it. They can repair what damage that we do to the exit holes, et cetera. And I think that they're saying, yeah, we've got more cards than you do now, so we're in the driver's shot. And I think they're playing that. And we haven't come to that recognition yet that we played our best cards first and they were neutralized and we don't have any more good cards. So we have some cards. We have some 10s and some 8s and whatever. I mean, we do still have a pretty powerful military and we can definitely blow a bunch of stuff up and kill a bunch of people in Iran. But in the things that matter, that would also prompt them to start playing their higher cards. And that's where you get the problem.
Oh, so this isn't about the Iranian people, Danniel?
Yeah. It's all about freedom, man. We just want to bring freedom to the. Oh, yeah, we forgot about that.
Yeah, no. Anyway, no. Let's brush aside from that. Okay, but I'm curious also on your thoughts, Danniel, about just generally the Strait of Hormuz more broadly. We had Sal of what's going on with shipping yesterday. Great deep dive with him on the sort of maritime elements. But from a military standpoint, like, when you look at the situation of the US and these continued flare-ups, we haven't spoken for a couple of weeks, so there's been a few. What does that tell you about the state of control or just generally of the US operations in the area from your experience? And also, where are we with stockpiles? Like, how sustainable is this from that element?
Well, I mean, the fact that this is whatever it is, 103, third day of the war since the war started, something like that, and the control of the Strait of Hormuz still resides, despite what President Trump just Truth Socialed, in the hands of the Iranian side. They're the ones that decide if any of the GCC countries get to send their oil out or not. And so that tells you everything you need to know. That's the one thing you can't hide behind. President Trump can put something ridiculous on Truth Social like that and claim that I have control of it. Okay, well then where is the flow of oil? You have control of it. How come don't tell me some fiction that 100 million barrels of oil have gone through, because we see the ship trackers and they can be counted. We know how many haven't gone through. We know that there's whatever is like 2,000 ships that are still stuck in the area right there. Show us where there's a flow of, okay, so was it 100, 130 per day before the war started? Show us where it's like 50 or 75, something like that you have control and you get to decide who comes out. And of course, there is none. I think it's like 10 or 12, I think is the most that goes out on a single day. And most of those are from the Iranian side because they have coordination with the IRGC and they've gotten through. So I don't know. I'm sure some ships have gotten through, but I'm almost certain that that's just a fictitious number that he threw out there because most people, they don't know. They're not going to have any way to know and independently confirm it. But what we do know is that the strait is blocked. So in a military perspective, that still remains the number one leverage and card that the Iranian side's hold. And as long as they keep that traffic shut off and any meaningful number, then this war is going to continue on. And we're going to be forced to, at some point, just concede to reality, because going back to military, firing a bunch of targets is not absolutely zero chance that that's going to cause the Iranian side to say, okay, uncle, as Trump calls it, fine. We'll just give you what you want and just please leave us alone, because they know that'll never happen. It would be suicidal for them to do so. It'd be suicidal for their leaders to agree to something like that. I think that would cause the people to revolt, maybe the IRGC to revolt if their leaders actually gave in to something like that because of a few more bombs. And it's irrational to think that that's going to happen, and I don't think that it's going to. So militarily, there just hadn't been much change in the last 101 days.
Let me just double check how we're doing for time with you.
Yeah, I'm getting close. I got about 3 or 4 more minutes.
All right, good. So we've just seen talks also from the Qatari side, Daniel. So the Qataris have been pushing for this. There seems to be efforts on the diplomatic side, but the Trump administration is hell-bent on undertaking what they call a proportionate response, as I alluded to earlier. What do you think happens next? Are we actually going to see these strikes or not? I'm still on the fence. I think it's part of this sometimes misdirection, deliberate sort of escalate to de-escalate sort of thing. Or do you think we could actually follow through and we're back in complete one
of the reasons I keep checking back to True Social is because Trump has had at least, as I recall, at least 2 cases in this war to where he had threatened that something big was coming. And then at the last minute, he comes in and says, well, I've got a deal. I've been worked out with something and we have agreed, or I think that they need more time. They're confused on the Iranian side. They don't know who's charged. So I need to give them more time. We're this close to a deal. And so we need to, he's done that on a couple of occasions.
But Danny, if I may, just on that point, the last time he said, praise be to Allah, there was a significant military move, wasn't there? So this is his second time. So I worry that he's going to do that. For
he did say that too. So I, unfortunately, in what I believe is the state of mind of the President Trump, you can't take anything that like, oh, well, this means this, because it could change from minute to minute. I mean, it's weird that he even said that. It defies any kind of cognition and logic anyway. And, this idea that he's actually, playing 3D chess and he's sending these signals, whatever. I don't see any evidence of that. What I see a lot of evidence is that he cannot make his mind up on anything. That's why I say Robert Barnes said they called him a decision or a deal incapable. He can't make any kind of a deal or a decision except that's why I hope that he doesn't make this one call to tell the military to go ahead and strike anyway, even though the military at the senior level, I'm told, are all saying this is not accomplishable militarily. We don't have the resources to bring the country, their political leadership, to submission. We just don't have it. And if you try, it won't work, but it will spawn all these other attacks. So I hope that'll work. I saw what he said, but my hope is that he won't do it. I can't say he won't. My gut tells me there's about a 75% chance he backs out and calls something else and says we're close to a deal again, whatever, because I think that he knows, and if he's guided by fear, he realizes if that threshold is crossed, you can never come back from it, because that will take it up a whole new level from where it has been. And I really hope that that's what happens.
Likewise, but simultaneously, Hegseth was in another part of the US earlier, meeting troops, talking about Cuba. So you may well be seeing the United States taking moves on Cuba. He was in Guantanamo Bay earlier today. So are we going to see operations over Cuba simultaneously with this? Who knows? But Danniel Davis, thank you so much. Of Danniel Davis Deep Dive, always a pleasure. I look forward to having you back very soon, and hopefully in better circumstances. But yeah, we always seem to get you on before the crisis. We preempt the crisis and then it unfolds. But thanks very much for your time. I'm going to stay on and just sort of debrief and
all right. See you next time.
Well, Danny.